So I'll just not touch that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Man, this is a little bit of a landmark day. This is the first time we've been able to do a face-to-face. And then those of us joining on Teams, we welcome you. We hope that you're having a terrific summer. It has been really lively here this summer. And of course, compared to last summer, that's not saying much because there's really nothing here. So, but to have, I'm guessing thousands of students over the course of the last several weeks, everything from camps to for strength of youth groups. We have art camps. It's really been a terrific sort of high energy summer. So thank you for all those that have been a part of it. And we're really sort of looking at fall starting and having kind of a full, really a full campus and kind of get back to normal. We will talk a little bit about though the coronavirus, D variant, those sorts of things. So we're being a little bit cautious, but we will have some preliminary ideas of how we're going to be moving in to next semester safely, and we'll cover that in just a minute. We hope that this has been a time to recharge and to do those things, to take care of yourself and your families, and we really hope that this has been a good time, downtime, those that were able to do it. We have a lot of great news, and so we're going to start out with some really fun news. And then we'll get into, we're hoping to have some reports from our cabinet members on key initiatives that are occurring. And then of course we want to make sure we leave plenty of time for Q&A and kind of engagement on those. But again, these are intended to really kind of information share, but really have an opportunity where you can engage the cabinet directly on things that are important to you. Well, the first thing that you probably have noticed through social media and other things is that Snow College ended up winning the best of state, and not just the best of state in 4 medal categories, which I think we've known for a couple of months. But we were very surprised when we went to the Salt Palace, and there's probably 1,500, 2,000 people there, where the judges gave the best of the best award in the category of education to Snow College. That was a surprise, and that was fun. And what that means, that is education category in all levels. So you're talking K-12, charters, private schools, colleges, universities, etc. And that was terrific. And I completely wasn't prepared, right? So we're there having a great dinner. We had just sort of celebrated 4 gold medalists, with Stacy McKitt, Barb Delaney, Jay Olson, and our curriculum sort of medal. And in the buzz, sort of talking, obviously, we hear blah blah blah, Snow College, and I'm going, what did we just do? What did we win? And that trophy, by the way, I don't know where that is, but you ought to just heft it. It is. Maybe I'm super weak, but it is, I swear, 25 pounds. And by the end of the night, I had a very good workout. I'm all jacked, as you can see from all of that. But isn't that a terrific recognition by the state? And I think that's a real credit to you. That the reputation, right, of quality of Snow College is getting more and more known, and really validating your work that you've been doing for decades. And so I thought it was just so fun for them to recognize you and your accomplishments. Another piece of really good news is we've gotten our largest donation in the institution's history, with a donation that probably is somewhere probably around 10 million. We know it's probably at least 5 million, but here's the interesting story. We received a phone call from a lawyer in Salt Lake who said, listen, Stoll College is the sole beneficiary of the estate of the Wade family. So Carlene and James Wade from West Valley, and you're the sole beneficiary of that estate. And that just doesn't come around every day. It doesn't come around once in a generation. I mean, if you're a BYU or Utah, that comes around probably every day. But we were ecstatic, and he says it's probably going to be somewhere between 1.5 to 1.9 million. But we're still trying to collect where all the assets are. And then he calls a few days later and says we made a miscalculation on that. We think it's probably closer to 4, maybe 5. Then a few days later, we get a inventory of what is in the estate, and we're stunned, right? So you're looking at something like Carson's of 17 duplexes in Salt Lake Valley, 3 homes, 3 or 4 cars, a very large parcel of land in Juab County, and the list continues to sort of grow. So, but here's the mystery: we don't know the Wades, and we're not sure how the Wades know Stoll College. None of them were alums. They had some children. The beneficiaries had died, predeceased the mother, and so we can't figure out why. We did get some insight though from the lawyer saying that it was really James, who died in 2016, that really it was his idea, and it was a little bit of an irritant to Carlene, who felt that, you know, why Stoll College, and she instructed the lawyer to change the documents and the estate to the University of Utah. So the lawyer drafted up the documents, and she never signed it. And so we lucked out. But here's really the great news. They want this money to go to scholarships. Isn't that great? And to the extent possible, they indicated there were 3 areas that they particularly were interested in: music, math, and veterans. And so once we kind of get the dust settled and we kind of understand where we are, then I can come back and make a sort of report on that. But just think about that in terms of the incredible benefit this is to future students. So that's a really bit of happy news that was completely unexpected. What else? Well, there's a lot going on. We're going to talk about enrollment in just a second. I do want to maybe change the order up a little bit with the cabinet, just because I know we have people like Stacy McKiff that needs to get on the road to somewhere else. And so maybe, Stacy, would you mind? Maybe we can start with you and give the campus a bit of an update on where we are with Tech Ed.
Sure, thanks, President. Hello, everyone. I can only see President, but I think we have a lot more people out there, so great to be with all of you today. A quick update on technical education. As you know, as we've been talking about for a long time, the technical programs are coming online at the reduced tuition rate this fall. And so those programs are, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen with those. It looks like there are about 75 of us on Teams, so I'll share my screen to show you. snow.edu/teched will get you. I don't think that people in, I'm not sure that people in the library can see, but for sure on Teams you ought to be able to see the website here for the technical programs. So we have auto, CNA, composites, construction, cosmetology, diesel, EMT, industrial mechanics, machine tool, nail tech, networking and cybersecurity, and welding. All of those programs will be offered starting this fall at the reduced tuition rate. So we're very excited about that and ask that all of you share with friends and family the opportunities that are happening in technical education. The cost savings are very significant. So as one example, in the auto program for 3 semesters, a student will save over almost $3,000 over the course of 3 semesters because of this reduced tuition rate. So that's very exciting news, and we're asking everybody to help spread the word. And then the other program that we're working on right now is Learn and Work. So I know that you all can't see this in the library, but we have the Learn and Work program that just opened up on Monday. Remember, Learn and Work is a program that we also offered a year ago. And this program allows students to take training tuition-free without any expenses for, okay, can you guys see my screen now? Something happened.
Yeah, it dropped off. I think we're back now.
Okay. All right, so I'm talking about Learn and Work and the opportunities that are available that it just opened on Monday. So you can direct people you know to go to snow.edu/learnandwork. And we have many exciting programs, everything from networking and cybersecurity. That's a 3-semester program that will, again, be tuition free for all participants who are adults in Utah, to composites, to heavy equipment operation. We even have a meat food processing certificate that we'll be offering this semester and into next, with some apprenticeship opportunities there too. So that's the good news. There's never been a better time to participate in this kind of training. There's never been a less expensive time to participate in this type of training. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. Visit our websites to get more information, and really appreciate everybody's support.
Well, thanks, Stacy. There's a lot going on. I spent half a day with Kendra Bagley, who's our rodeo coach, last week, and it's amazing what kinds of certificates could really help our region that we haven't really thought of. And so you may have noticed there's a meat processing certificate. Who would have known, right? But there's a large meat processing plant going into Sevier County. But Kendra was telling me that something like horseshoeing, for example, is a skill, I had no idea, is a skill that really hard to find, and they make really good money. So one of the things we're thinking about is maybe a horseshoeing program, because there isn't really one around, and especially when it comes to some of our students, our Native American students, our Hispanic students, this is really, really an attractive sort of thing. Well, we're going to sort of talk more about that at some point. But this is, I love what we're doing here with our tech ed. We're really aligning in terms of workforce development, finding ways in which we can reach out to not just traditional students when it comes to these programs, but non-traditional students. You know, the future, in my opinion, the future of rural education in Utah is with the working mother, the working learner, the entrepreneur, the and other kinds of underserved students, and I really think that we're positioning Snow College well to serve those kinds of communities with our tech ed program. Any questions for Stacy while we have her? Well, Stacy, I stay on as long as you can and weigh in. We may have some folks from the teams online that may have some questions in a minute, but thanks for all you and your team are doing down there. The Utah Rural Schools Association, which is a 2-day event, was hosted by our Richfield campus. The keynote speaker was our First Lady Cox, who just did a terrific job. But I really wanted to compliment our Richfield team for a terrific event. So thanks, Stacy. Thanks, Heidi, and everybody else that was a part of that down there. So let's actually bring Terry on up. She's going to talk about enrollment, and there's lots of dimensions to this that I think you'll find kind of fascinating.
Yeah. All right. Where do you want me to start? Where we're at, or the initiatives?
Let's start where we are,
okay.
And then initiatives as they.
All right, so I'm really happy to say that we're 9% up over last year, and if you remember, we had record-breaking enrollment last year. And we still have a lot to do. This is before any of our learn and work. This is before several of the different initiatives that I'm going to talk about happening. So we're in a really good spot. The one thing I want to share though is that our freshman class is huge this year. I had a goal for those of us in enrollment management that we were going to try and hit 1650 as a number for our new freshmen, and we're at 1648 today.
That's great.
So we're going to make it.
Goals.
Yes. We're super excited about that, which means that we are actually up in our new freshmen by 33%, which is crazy. I'm so happy about that. But as we look, we are down a little bit in our continuing students. It's not necessarily surprising. We had a lot of students that would have normally deferred last year to go on missions that elected to come to school and are now taking a leave of absence. So not necessarily surprising, a little bit disappointing because it would have been nice to see those students continuing. But we do have several initiatives that are going to help us drive up those numbers. Our first one that I want to talk about is the Arizona Football Initiative. So what has happened, as many of you may know, several years ago, all of the community and junior colleges in Arizona got rid of their football teams. And the Hohokam Junior College Athletic Conference, if I can say that right, is a group that was created to give students an opportunity to still play football and giving them an entrance into higher education, because there's a lot of these kids that they wouldn't have attended otherwise. One of the requirements to participate in this club league is that they have to be enrolled as full-time students. And the league was having some issues with the Arizona schools, and one of our former coaches here at Snow College reached out to President Cook, and we set up an agreement that we would be an online provider for these students. There was a group of us that went last week and spent a very long time helping them. It was a 13-hour day, but we registered 115 students, got them, many of them admitted and all the way through registration. We have another 200 students. We're going back on the 5th of August, so I have a little bit of time to sleep. But we're going back on the 5th, and we'll be doing the same thing, and it's highly likely that we might be looking at about another 2 to 250 with students. We learned some lessons. We need more of us because it's a heavy lift. So that's a really exciting.
Can I provide some editorial to this? This is actually quite personal in a sense to me. I'm a product of junior college football, and when I played, there were 130, 140 junior college football programs in the country. There are less than 50 now. Junior colleges are unloading their football programs. We are now a bit of an island here in the Intermountain West when it comes to football. What I have always loved about junior college football is it provided for many young men an opportunity to get a college education that they wouldn't have probably otherwise. Guys I played with weren't that interested in education at first, but were interested in playing football. But because, you know, you had to go to school to play football, it was only then, right, where they were able to see the value of education and made something out of it. Think about the hundreds, if not thousands, of young men who want to play after high school, but have very few opportunities. There are very few opportunities with Division I scholarships. So what I really loved about the Arizona League, which is a private league, so we don't have any liability, you know, they really have their own league, is that their commitment, though, the league's commitment, the league leadership commitment, is that these young men have to be a student. They didn't have to do that. You could have a league without that requirement, but they not only want that, because the two primary leaders in the Arizona League were also JUCO, junior college football products. And so in order for them to play in this league, they've got to be able to have academic progress. They've got to be a full-time student. And for us to be able to step up and be able to provide that does mean, though, because we're going to have more enrollment, that will allow us to provide more resources. These are our students that we're going to need more help. Online students, generally need more help in terms of persisting. So to be able to have online tutoring, advisors, but with that growth money, we'll be able to provide that. So I'm very excited. The league is talking about expansion, possibly a team in St. George, a team in Ogden. And if you take this out to some sort of logical conclusion that maybe this is the way of the future when it comes to college football, that actually become leagues or private leagues, and who knows. But I am really kind of animated, inspired really, to find a way in which we can, as a college, help young people, especially many of these young men probably wouldn't consider college otherwise. And I think that's really a terrific thing. So we'll see how it goes. So look about 350 or so this next year. And I really want to shout out to your team. Hardship, it was hard. I mean, I don't know how hot it was just alone, right, dealing with weather, but it was a long day, and in some cases, some personal tragedies had sort of struck one particular valued colleague, and it was a very, but we thank you all for that, and let us know how we can make that next trip in August a little easier.
Well, we're going to take a few more people to help out. It was really impressive. We had students that were waiting 4 and 5 hours to meet with us. Part of it was they hadn't done their part, they hadn't applied. So it took some time to get that through the system. But hearing the stories of some of these, I call them kids because they haven't been students yet, some of them. But some of the personal stories that they had to get to where they are, like there was one that he came from Philadelphia. He has such a tragic, he's been on his own since he was 16. Basically sold everything that he had to move to Arizona to participate in this program because there was no other way for him to go to college. And it was really, I mean, some of the stories were heartbreaking. But it was such a fantastic day. I loved it, and kudos to that team because they did not take breaks. It was a rough day. The second initiative that we have, many of you may have heard that Southern Utah University is experiencing a housing shortage. It has to do with the pandemic and a lot of their student housing being converted into family housing. And so President Wyatt had reached out to President Cook, said, hey, can you take any of these students? And we've been working with them to see if we can take some of their students for the first 2 years and then get them to SUU. And it's a program that they're calling Snowbirds, where if a student has been,
cute,
I know, isn't that cute? I see some nods.
Am I right?
How cute it is. So they've been admitted to SUU, and they're offering them the opportunity to come here to Snow. We would honor basically the percentage of their scholarship. So, if they qualified for our Dean's Scholarship, that's what we would give them here. But then their scholarship would be saved for them when they transfer to SUU after graduating here. We haven't had too many students yet take up the offer. I imagine we'll have maybe a rush starting in August when housing gets a real big crunch. They have been able to find some additional housing opportunities for their students, but it is an option, and we're hoping that that will be a really great relationship to help those students start here, finish there, and get that great Snow College education. The last thing I'm sure everybody knows is we're doing our Up to 14 for Free campaign, which we spend all of our money the first semester if our enrollment keeps rising. Carson's over here going, oh no, oh no. But with our last round of COVID funds, what we decided to do instead of just giving everyone a blanket grant was to tell students if they pay for the first 6 credits, we would pay up to 14. Up to 20. Now, we don't recommend that students take 20 credit hours, especially their first semester in college, but for those that want to and are capable, they can. This has been really exciting and has helped a lot of our lower income students understand that they do have an opportunity to come here. How this will work is the first 6 credits, we're just going to use in-state right now for easy math. It's $1,208 for tuition. Their Pell Grants, their scholarships, et cetera, will all pay for that, and then we'll put that up to $14,000 free on top of it. So, I mean, for many students, the cost is going to be quite minimal. In fact, I think if you have a Dean's scholarship, you're paying only $900 for school this semester. So it's huge. I see a couple of people who may have graduated and are like, why was this not here when I was here? This is really excellent and has really helped our enrollment because we are offering this to all students. And then additionally, we just heard 2 weeks ago that we got an additional $600,000 from the state to offer in scholarships. And those scholarships will go for 4 different areas. We have a diversity scholarship that we're adding to. Fernando usually oversees that. He usually has maybe about 20 scholarships. This year he'll have 150 scholarships for students of color from diverse backgrounds, which is huge. We'll have an online / non-traditional scholarship that students can apply for. We have a scholarship for readmits for students who may have stopped out due to COVID and are coming back. And what was the last one? I missed it. Anyway, we have Tech Ed. Thank you. And then we have one to help with Tech Ed. As you know, that's a lower tuition model that Stacy's already talked about. So this should help a lot of our Tech Ed students pay nothing for their education for the next year. So super excited about all of these opportunities to help our students come and do it for pennies on the dollar. So.
Terry's doing a great job and our team working hard. Thank you. Any questions you have for Terry in enrollment? Barb.
This is like beating a dead horse, but I'm gonna ask, because it's about scholarships for the juniors and seniors in the music and engineering program. They are not receiving academic scholarships when they hit that junior and senior level. Can that be fixed?
So the question, if that wasn't heard by our online friends, the question that Barb Delane had is that there still is an ongoing challenge with both our software engineering and our commercial music 4-year students, that scholarships aren't being applied for their junior and senior years. And
Yeah,
academic scholarships.
They kept their credit, they kept their GPA, and then their academic scholarship goes away.
Yeah.
The most they get is $500 a semester for academic, where they've been having a full ride in the past for the first 2 years, and then they get $500.
Do we have a sense then of what it would take? Do we have that gap analysis?
There's 32 students that qualify for academic in the junior and senior level.
In both programs?
In both programs.
So about 32 students.
Yep.
So this is something that we've talked about in our scholarship area, and hopefully with the Wade's donation, we'll be able to backfill that. Unfortunately, we don't have the room in our academic waivers that the state is requiring us to keep to a certain percentage. And so we're going to have to use some of our private dollars so that we don't exceed that. My hope is that once we have this, then we can start honoring those scholarships, but backfill it with private dollars rather than waivers.
But you know I'm passionate about these.
I know you are.
They are
so good.
They are Snow College
Yes.
students, and they are here providing numbers for us, and they are valued students that do things on this campus, and it's, in my world, it's just not fair or right that they're not being treated like every other Snow College student.
It's also, we're also into the brink of the 10th year of this problem, so it's not like it's something we realize that we can fix it. We're a decade. This is the case.
I think one bright light now with the waves, scholarship, this is a way we can maybe address that. And,
That would be great. I mean, I would,
Yeah.
you know, I say, I just an advocate for those students and I just see what they do.
Yeah, and rightly so. And we're really blessed to have this so that we can go back and fix some of these issues that have been very apparent. And it should help us across the board to maintain our level of waivers. Unfortunately, Snow College doesn't have a lot of the revenue streams that other institutions do that help them stay below that 10% in our waivers, but this will definitely help.
let's go to the question on the board here. And the question is, can you please confirm what students need to do this summer to apply for that 6+14 scholarship? Do they need to fill out a FAFSA online for now? Has an email been sent to all of our returning students?
So yes, an email has been sent to our returning students. No, they don't have to do anything except it will be applied to their account sometime in August, and we will send out a huge reminder email. Students will have to go in and accept it because they have to acknowledge that they are aware that we're using COVID funds for that. But no, this is open to our international students. It's open to our undocumented students. This is open to all students. They've really relaxed the requirements this time, which we're very, very grateful for. And all a student has to go and do is when they've applied it in August, go in and accept it. Easy peasy. Although I will make, you need to go fill out the FAFSA.
Oh,
That is so important.
You got to do that.
You don't, it's not a requirement, but if you have a student that hasn't filled out the FAFSA that is eligible to fill it out, fill it out. You never know what you can get. We leave lots and lots of Pell dollars on the table that students could use.
Students have to accept the money for the up to 14 free.
Yes.
Is that what I?
Yeah, that's one of the requirements for the money. I'll just say COVID instead of her because it makes more sense. But that is one of the requirements of the COVID money is that you have to acknowledge that it's going towards your account. So.
Any other questions before we bring Carson up to talk about budget cycles, ARPA money, and anything else that consider this? He's just consider this a hazing experience for him still. You know? He's less than 2 years old here, so it's still. Come on up, Carson. It's so fun to have Carson because he's always someone we can have fun with, and he's unflappable. That's what I love about him.
It's nice if you have fun with the budget person.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the performance-based funding? You might remember the college got about $611,000 for performance-based funding this last year. Again, that's almost exclusively marked for as it relates to access, retention, and completion. So do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so the state asked us what we were spending that money on, and we've responded back. A lot of it are positions that are related to those areas. So there are, we had student success, we had some faculty members, we had some IT personnel. So we had that spread out through a lot of areas. One of the things though that also complicates it, we've got that COVID money, and you'll hear a lot of different acronyms. There's the CARES Act, there's the CRRSSA, there's ARPA, HERF. It's all rolled up into it all means the same thing.
And because it came in different stages, where there are really sort of 3 waves of federal money that came. So we're going to try and help you kind of understand that a little bit.
Yeah, and so there are some regulations tied with that, that we can, what positions we can fund. And so there have been positions at the college in order to make the budget work that we've shifted over to COVID funds with the intent that then as we move forward with the next round of performance-based funding for this next year, that then will backfill some of those positions, so.
Yeah.
But I can talk a little bit about those different stages.
What would be the difference? Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So there are 3 different rounds of COVID funding. And the way that the federal government has provided that funding is it's a supplemental award each time. So it's the same grant that we receive. But as Terry mentioned, they've loosened some of those requirements. And so the first round that we got 1.2 million that went out to students, and that was just as a direct award to them. And we got 1.2 million for the institution. And we used that really to keep operations going. So that was funding the facilities team for its hand sanitizer stations, plexiglass, all of those things to keep the lights on and keep working. The next round of funding, then they loosened the requirements a little bit. This was the very end of the Trump administration. So in December, they passed the second round. And that was another 1.2 million out to students and about 4.2 million to the institution that we could use. And so that round has now, we've been spending that money, and that's really for a lot of the technology needs. Let's enhance how things are moving forward and how do we improve the operations here. And then the third round of funding, which is we received, and that was under the Biden administration, that was about 4.7 million for the institution and about 4.8 million for the students. And so that's where we're pulling a lot of this up to 14 credits for free for the students. And then what we're looking at are kind of the long-term improvements, student success initiatives and things like that.
Part of what we're trying to do is how do we best use these dollars perhaps for future investment, right? How do we reinvest in our infrastructure now that doesn't answer what happens when it I'm looking at our new CIO. It doesn't answer about how we, in 4 or 5 years when we have to cycle those out. But this is an opportunity that we can improve our AV capabilities within the classroom, our Wi-Fi, other kinds of technologies that will benefit us for a year. Speaking of which, do you want to introduce our new CIO? And
yeah, that would be great. So I'd invite Bill to come on up. This is Bill Schutz, and he comes to us from Lane Community College, and is happy to be here in Ephraim and it's snow.
I am.
Bill, is there anything you want to share?
Sure. I was just asked to share, so this is sort of impromptu, but I came from Oregon. I tried to bring some rain. You notice it's been raining a little lately. I'm told that this is the monsoon season, and I'm not sure. When I think of monsoons, I'm thinking of India, right? But I'll take it. And let's see. The president mentioned, a lot of people are being able to recharge in the summer, and actually the IT department is not recharging, we're charging, because we've got money now from all these funds, and so we're doing lots of stuff over the summer. We're putting in over 120 access points in the dorms for wireless access. We're putting in hundreds of switches, Ethernet switches, fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet switches all around the college. We're putting in new AV equipment in the classrooms. We're migrating our Exchange server to Microsoft Office 365 so that we'll have more stable email at the college, better Wi-Fi at the college. We're hoping to have better Mac support at the college. I'm a Mac user, although I also use PCs. And,
You're getting a lot of applause here.
We've got lots of stuff going on, and when I look at the IT department, it's small, but they're all Jedis, okay? And when you mix the Force with the Snow Badger, we're going to have some really interesting results, I think. You know, we'll have lightsaber wielding snow badgers in IT walking around. We're hoping to have a better, a more responsive help desk. We're getting some ticketing system and project management system so that we can track everything that calls. So you'll have one call to solve it all, right? And then I think the other thing that's really interesting with the state, you know, Snow is best of state in so many things. I'm so surprised how amazing we're winning all these awards. I'd like to win some awards in IT too. You know, I think we have the right team. It's just that there's a few missing from the team that we've lost that we need to replace. And Carson is going to help me with that, I'm sure.
I'm on the spot now, on camera.
You know, good IT does require investment. You know, technology doesn't just put itself together. You know, these meetings don't just happen. You know, they need people, and they wear out. You know, maintenance happens, and so I was really excited when I heard about the waves because I grew up in Hawaii and I know how to surf, and so one of those 3 waves of funding, I'd like to get some of that towards IT so we can ride with it. Okay. So let's see what else. IT has changed. You know, it's changing. We've got much more use of firewalls or cybersecurity concerns, upgrades. We have self-driving cars now. That Corvette, I heard there was a Corvette from the Wade Foundation. I'm glad that's not self-driving because I'd like to drive that thing. But,
Bill has promised me the response time to IT would be much improved if he can drive a Corvette to get to the location.
Great. We've got, you know, there's just new construction, there's mobile apps, there's Wi-Fi everywhere, there's the consumerization of technology. You know, everybody has email, Google, it's free. Students expect that. They expect everything to be instantly available. But it isn't really free. You know, Google isn't, it's free to consumers, but they get a lot of money from advertising and other things. And IT takes investment, but I'm really happy to be here. My wife has a lot of family here. I've got 4 children that are close by that I'm going to be close to, which I'm excited about. And I really feel this snow spirit that everybody talks about. And I want to encourage everyone that's hearing and everybody that you talk to talk to IT. When you have a problem, call us. Don't let it fester. Call us, call the help desk. We're going to start tracking everything. And a lot of times things don't work and people never tell IT that it isn't working. You know, that's what I found in a lot of places I've been. So I encourage you to call us, let us know when there's problems, and we'll try to address them.
We're thrilled to have Bill here. And thank you. Bill has promised, you know, he's talked about the help desk, and you can tell that Bill is a Star Wars fan. He said that, you know, the accuracy of the help desk is going to be even better than a stormtrooper. So it's going to be great.
These guys always get shot.
Yeah, and they never hit their target. So we're looking forward to this. It's going to be great. We're excited to have Bill here.
Well, what else? Well, we have Carson here. We do still have some. We have two years to spend some of this federal dollars. We want to be smart about it. We're going to take our time. There have been, again, requests for this. You may have seen that those entities that have put in requests for these federal dollars, there's a tracking system. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we've created a tracking system. It's on Canvas. There's a course that's the budget task force, or you can get to it from the SNO budget site. But you can go on there and you can see where your request is in the process, whether it's been funded, whether it's been approved, whether it's been sent back for additional information. And so that's an easy place for those who have requested those funds to be able to go back and look at that. And so we want to make it easy. If you have suggestions, feel free to send them along.
Is that tracking only for COVID projects? Because I've asked for a planetarium budget before COVID hit, and I don't see it on that spreadsheet.
So this one, we are tracking all of the requests that come into the budget task force. And so I don't know, Larry, if you've submitted one to the budget task force for the planetarium budget. Okay, we'll look into that and we'll try and find where that one is.
Speaking of which, we also are taking a look at a much more, we want to kind of take a revamped look at our budgeting cycle. I think that, and Carson can speak to this, our intention really is, we do have a budget committee, but the intention is how do we actually have people have access to shaping the budget that are on that budget task force? And how do we have a system? And there's some very effective programs, effective systems, even within UC institutions that have a much sort of broader interactive way in which budgets are shaped. Can we talk a little bit about our thoughts moving forward?
So we've been talking about how to make that more accessible and transparent for everybody. And so I've talked with Sherry, we're actually going to be spending some time this next year visiting those other campuses, learning more about the budget cycles that they have, and then implementing something similar here at SNO so that everybody is aware of when those budgeting decisions need to be made, how those get approved up through your departments and through the academic divisions, and then being able to go and present those to the budget task force, which then will help shape that budget so that everybody will be aware of the budget when we get to performance-based funding from the state, that there isn't another question next year, Carson, how did we spend those funds? Everybody will know where those funds are going and why those were the decisions that were made. So we want to make that a transparent process. So we are working on that.
Yeah, that is good.
And President, just one other quick thing, because I know a lot of people, there have been some concerns and frustrations and questions about this new chart of accounts.
Right.
I do just want to share that we are working through a lot of those. Everybody will get paid. I've been assured of that. So payroll will run, but there are some things that we're finding as we're going through the process that will need to be tweaked, and so I just ask for everybody to be patient as we work through that. We'll get to you, and we'll resolve those concerns, but it's going to take a little bit of time. It's complicated, or that those things have been compounded. I think we've had some adjustments and people off in the controller's office for babies and things like that. And so trying to get all of these issues worked out, we're getting there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Any questions for Carson? Okay, thanks, Carson.
Thank you.
Thanks to you and your team. Mel, you want to join me? Let's just talk a little bit about academics. Academics has been very busy this summer, as always. And maybe you want to comment a little bit about our faculty hiring. Very proud of the new faculty that have come aboard. Talk a little bit about those faculty, and then talk a little bit maybe about our competency-based education approval from Northwest that opens up the door for another type of delivery. So.
Sure. So we had 15 faculty positions open this year. That is because of early retirements and a couple of new positions that were funded. And we have been working, I would say, probably 5 months now, getting those positions filled. We still are have been unable to hire in a couple areas. We're still working on a couple areas. but 11 have terminal degrees. So we're really excited about that. We have people coming from as far away as Africa to teach for us, as close as someone who already lives in town. We've hired a local person as well. So it's a really good pool. We're really excited about this group that's coming in the fall. We think that they'll bring a lot of expertise and experience in a variety of mediums. Every one of them has experience in diverse mediums of teaching, which will help us, and we're excited about them. In terms of CBE, we applied through the Northwest for a substantive change for a CBE program in general education, and we are only one of 2 institutions in the state of Utah that is currently authorized to offer competency-based education through the Northwest Accreditation Agency. So we're pretty excited about that. We got that news a couple of weeks ago and celebrated that. We will be following that up with a request to offer some of our technical education in a competency-based format as well, and we anticipate no problems getting that approved also. So.
Good. Any questions for Melanie, our academic team? I think our academic folks are pretty engaged, even in the summer as we prepare. Talk a little bit about some of the faculty trainings coming up in August.
Sure. So we've been doing trainings all summer. We have 70%. Is Diane going to join?
Diane, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great, thanks.
So maybe I'll let her talk about some of the online competency-based trainings that we've done this summer. We'll in the back to school session, we'll have a session just for faculty. We'll talk about some things we can do with student support. We're actually anticipating this year, and we're not the only ones anticipating this. This is a nationwide concern. This freshman class and sophomore class, because most sophomores at other institutions were purely online also. So both the freshman and sophomore class are concerned nationwide in terms of preparation and student need. And so we've applied for some funding through the COVID funds to do better wraparound services. We have great success rate, but we don't communicate very well in terms of the support that we provide students, nor do we assess that support. We don't know exactly how effective it is, which supports are the best. And then we're missing some key pieces of student support. So we've applied for some COVID funds, and we think we can make a short-term impact with that, but also then a long-term impact in terms of student success and retention. So.
Great. Welcome, Diane. Nice to have you with us. And remember, Diane is our Associate Provost for Online Education. Do you want to say a few words about our work on online broadly and maybe AOL in particular?
Sure. So we'll start where Melanie kind of led us. As part of our online efforts, we have got the quality design checklist is now in Qualtrics, and most of the courses that are online are being reviewed. For that, we're looking for specific pathways to degrees, certificates that could be 100% online. We have an RFP that's out right now for online tutoring services so that we can really support students, whether they're with us on campus or they're with us online, or there's some combination of both. So we have a couple of great candidates that we're reviewing right now for that. The other thing we're doing is really looking at our online test proctoring services, how often it's being used. Can we expand that? Should we expand that? And then expanded use of tools like Turnitin.com, because it's wonderful to offer online, but it's really important that we keep really good guardrails around the academic quality and integrity. So really excited about that. Some of the COVID funds are actually going to help increase the quality, I guess, and social presence of our instructors. We're looking at doing videography and audio editing to help people get their courses online or improve the courses that they have, so that we really have a great product and a great experience for people who are online. So I think that's mostly the main points that we have for online. We are looking at prior learning assessment. options that will be an online kind of delivery component as well. It's really going to be an evaluation. But moving on to AOL, I think there's some good things that people will be relieved to hear about AOL. So we have been working hard with AOL to move to more of an truly adjunct teaching model, so that we have adjuncts who are functioning as engaged faculty members, and they're also in the role of the grader or evaluator. And we've moved this year to have all faculty approved by department heads. We're gathering their transcripts. We're making sure that they have the proper qualifications to be teaching the classes that they are working with. And we're building a bench. And that just means that we're making sure that we have more than one faculty member who's been identified as qualified to teach a class, so that in the event that someone leaves or we suddenly get a surge in students, that we can handle that with people that we're confident in. So I am excited as I see the resumes and the transcripts roll in. I have been really pleased with the response from departments on reviewing those transcripts and giving feedback. And if someone isn't properly qualified, they're letting us know, letting AOL know, and we're staying right on that. So I'm really happy about that.
Hey, Diane, can I just throw in that those positions are currently on our HR website. And so if you know people that would be qualified, maybe some of our own adjuncts might like some additional employment opportunity through the AOL format, please send them to our website and they can get additional information on how to apply and be considered.
That's great. Thanks for bringing that up. And one of the things that we're going to take advantage of this year as well is that AOL has kind of a fall kickoff that they do with the staff. And we have asked, and of course they have allowed us to do that, they should, it's our program, to be part of that orientation so that we get to guide more what's happening there and be more part of orienting and properly acclimating folks who will be working with the students who are SNO students. So we're excited that we're doing that. We're also tightening up the academic model, meaning that while AOL uses something of a mastery-based approach, we are an accredited institution, and we're moving them toward being compliant with what we're setting up for CBE as well, which means that we will have some assessments where there are limited attempts. And that transition has begun now. It could take a term to get that up and running, but I know that that's happening. And they have been really supportive of that, and we'll continue to work closely with them to make sure that they continue to be supportive. We meet with them every week, and I really appreciate all the engagement from various faculty and staff administrators that have hung in there with us every week when we have our update call with them. It looks like the students are going to be about the same from what they were last year. We could get a surge, but right now we think we'll be about the same. And we're also looking for a prior learning assessment option for these students with some limits, meaning that we would have a really rigorous evaluation process, standardized assessment practices that we'd be using, and they could only earn up to 9 credits through PLA. So prior learning assessment is something that certainly is being done around the country. It's still in infancy in many cases, but we get to lead out in some of those practices. It's a really great option for military personnel, for missionaries, for example, who learn to speak a second language. So we'll get to do some of that as well. I think that's pretty much it. Unless Melanie, you can think of anything around AOL or online.
Well, there is a question that says, what is AOL? What's that model? It's a good reminder that, you know, the language becomes so internalized for us, we start throwing around acronyms, assuming everybody knows what they are, right? And AOL is our accelerated online format. It was our first step towards a competency-based model where students can kind of work at their own pace. But we didn't have approval to offer competency-based, so we couldn't go full in. So it borrows from competency-based, but it's not full competency-based.
And it's really an early college model as well. So we have students who are in high school, similar to concurrent enrollment, but it's for students who are not in public schools. And it's interesting that we're getting some interest from other schools that have heard about this, that are interested in having relationships with us directly. So it's this early college opportunity for the growing population of students who are not in traditional public high school is an interesting, I think it's an interesting opportunity for us in ways that are similar to our football players. That another interesting niche and opportunity, and Snow is a great place, I think, for these kind of things. And I'll just end with a really sweet thing that I heard about Snow last Friday when I was at a family wedding. And I was just chit-chatting with some of the people I didn't know very well. And so they asked what I did. And I said, well, I work at Snow College. And this particular individual is now an attorney, but is a Snow alum. And he said that when he went to Snow, that the tagline or the motto was that Snow College was the warmest snow on earth. And I would have to say that I have certainly found it to be true. And as I've watched how people care about all of our students, no matter where they're from or what they're doing, it's really quite remarkable. And so I just really am thankful for the opportunity to be part of such a great team.
Thank you, Diane. Any questions for Diane and our online projects? Okay. Thanks very much, Melanie. Appreciate that. I think we're kind of winding down now. I want to just give you a little sense of some of the priorities moving forward next year. As you know, we have a building that we need to get replaced. It's on the corner here, as you know, across from the Science Building. We will be having the subcommittee, the facility subcommittee of the board, hired board, will be here on August 25th to review that building. I spent much of the morning talking to the chair of that committee about that building. We're optimistic, but you know, we've been disappointed on this building for a few years. The good news is that the state, with their federal stimulus, allocated $135 million to higher education for buildings. We are in that list. We are among the top 3 that are in that list. So we're hoping that we can hold. We were hoping that the legislature would have made some interim decisions this summer about those buildings. They deferred those decisions and to use the federal money as a part of the overall strategy during the legislative session. So we don't know whether how successful we'll be, but we've gotten some pretty good indicators that we've actually raised almost $1 million of private funds towards that building. So we're hoping that that will. Some data that I want to share with the campus, probably at our August, kind of our August, maybe 25th back to school meeting, is really getting around the question of what is the appropriate base budget for Snow College to fund our mission. What does it and should our base budget be, so that we can, in all senses, fulfill our mission? And so I've really appreciated the Office of Institutional Effectiveness, our other team members around the campus in terms of identifying data that can help us get our arms around that. It will be probably my priority this year is to move to find some resources to increase our base budget allocations. There are 3 areas that I think that whatever consequences that have occurred in the past because of where we are in terms of we think we are light in our base budget according to our mission and compared to peers. And we can talk about what happened and maybe why. But the consequences really have resulted in 3 pinch points for the campus. Compensation, right? And with compensation, this is going to be a continued challenge now that the cost of living in Sanpete and Sevier counties continues to climb, especially with real estate. It's getting harder and harder for us to recruit and retain great talent. We are moving, there's also a piece of, we have to be able to move our adjunct faculty rates from $800 a credit hour to something above that. I'm hoping that we can go to about $1,000 a credit hour to try and make that somewhat competitive with the Wasatch Front, which is where we compete for most of our adjuncts, right? So when Utah Valley is offering $1,200 a credit hour, BYU, $1,500 a credit hour, and even some of the Salt Lake places, Westminster and the U, much higher. You know, why would people teach it at Snow if they can teach adjunct at these other places? So that's another good. So compensation has been a pinch point. Second really is our current expenses, right? So when you think about our operational dollars, how we operate the campus, whether it's IT, whether it's really a department budget, whether it's the planetarium, or whether it's, you know, in the years past, administrations have tried to protect employees when it comes to budget cuts. And so often what happens is that the campus ended up going after operational dollars because it seemed to impact fewer people. But that has an cumulative effect, and that's a problem. And so everybody's working on very, very tight current expense budgets. The third is what we're calling a critical position shortage pinch point, right? These are where people are wearing multiple hats, and then when you look at a campus like ours, there are a whole raft, right, of positions that we don't have full-time people, right? It doesn't mean that we aren't attending to those duties in some way, but in some cases, I'll just take Rob Nielsen, for example. Rob Nielsen is our athletic director. He's our men's basketball coach. He's our director of auxiliary services, and he, over this last year, was our COVID czar, right? He helped coordinate the campus's. Well, and he's not the only one, right, that is often doing multiple jobs. And so yesterday, Carson and I spent some time with the commissioner on this white paper, on the presentation. We will see, but I will share some of the details. So here's the sense I want you to know. We are in this boat together, and we have got to find ways in which we can kind of right size this, because I don't think we can grow our way out of it, given the demographic trends where we are in the 6-county region. But it's not a trivial ask. It's actually going to be quite substantive, and I think strategically and legislatively, we're going to have to be very clever and I think very smart about how and when we would do this. But just letting you know that we get most of the summer have been gathering our heads around what is the appropriate base budget for Snow College, and we need to make sure that the state then understands that and that they value this mission, and if they value Snow College's mission, then there needs to be some consideration there. And luckily, I think we have good friends in the legislature, including our own Darren Owens and Carl Albrecht, Steve Lund, but we also have other allies in the Senate and in the House that want to do something for rural education. We're actually couching this as a rural initiative. And I'll explain why we think that qualifies for a rural initiative when we share more details with you. Lastly, before we kind of wind down and open it up for questions, questions around what is our COVID update, what's our COVID planning? So the state committee that I'm a part of on higher ed, the COVID committee, met for the first time in about a month or so. And this is, we are a little worried. 90% of the hospitalizations that are COVID related are with the unvaccinated population. Variant D is a much more contagious variant, and it could be deadly for those that aren't going to protect themselves. That said, that there is no sort of indication of vaccine requirements coming from the system level just yet, or if ever. But we are going to be mask friendly on this campus, and depending on how things look for the state in late August and September, we're going to have to just take a look at the strategies that we have at our disposal. And make it a safe place for students and for all of us to work here. We are looking at ways in which we can incentivize vaccines for our students when they come, those that aren't vaccinated. We will have vaccine clinics. They will be free. And we're looking at ways in which we can incentivize. But we really do encourage the campus to be vaccinated and protect yourself and your family in that regard. I will say that, having a mask for me over the past year, I've never been as healthy. And then without the mask, I got a cold last week that I just wasn't quite prepared for. And I was worried that maybe even though I'm vaccinated, had maybe picked something up. So I got tested and it wasn't. But man, I wasn't used to being sick, and it really threw me through. So keep washing your hands, right? I actually just still cringe when we have to shake hands. I'm a little bit germophobic right now, so I'm still kind of punching fists and elbows at the moment. But take care of yourself. There's a lot of nasty stuff out there, So listen, there's a question from Dean McHuff. Will COVID continue to be a factor on campus this fall? Will we have rapid testing available? Yeah, so I think that's the question. We will have these testing services available. We will have the vaccines available. The big question is about what kind of a system approach are we going to have relative to masks and vaccine requirements. I just don't see that. It's complicated because now that because if you've been vaccinated, right, then there hasn't been really the masking isn't such an issue. And so we're in a better place than we were this time last year for sure. But with this variant D, it's a variable that we're going to have to kind of keep our eye on, and may have to pivot, later on in August, early September, if we think we need to. Okay. Well, listen, we are about out of time, but want to open it up to see if there are any general questions. I want to remind those we do have a welcome back on August 25th. I always look forward to that day. It's a really great day when we kind of gather as a community and we sort of outline what we hope the year to look like, and get ready to sort of charge through the fall semester. Any questions or thoughts that you might have that we can respond to? We appreciate really the incredible dedication of you all. The campus looks great. We want to thank our grounds folks and our custodial folks for working so hard, even with the drought. I know that we're trying to keep the lawns alive, but be patient with us because we really are in a bit of a dire situation here. So we're probably going to be dialing back a little bit on the water so we can be good citizens. But we really do have a terrific facilities and custodial and maintenance teams. Anything else on your mind? Anything on? It looks like we do have a question here. We made huge accommodations. This is a question come from web here. We made huge accommodations for the students last year, including streaming classes, recording classes, delaying due dates. We had testing and official letters to verify which students needed the accommodations. But many of our other students took advantage of the leniency and impacted outcomes. This semester, will we have a requirement for positive test results in order for our students to have these accommodations so we can tighten things down again? I think the short answer is I don't think we can do that in terms of verifying whether people have had whether they're positive or whether they've been vaccinated or not. But any thoughts, Melanie, about how we might approach this to kind of steer? And we've learned some lessons from last year.
Right, we've learned good lessons and bad lessons, right? I mean, we just say, hey, be flexible. Students, obviously, some students, like I would say the bulk of our students did their very best all year long, but some students did take advantage of that, and they may still, try that again. I think they did prior to COVID. But what we are hearing from students, and there are national surveys being done all over, what did you learn, what did you value, what should continue to be changed about education as we go post-COVID? And what we're hearing from students nationwide, 77% of students are saying the one thing that they don't want to change, they want faculty to still take classes. They don't care if you have an attendance policy and you hold them to it, but when they're sick, when they have other conflicts, they want to be able to come in later and look at a class. And then those who are really high achieving students want that just so that as a study aid, right? So they can come in later and review notes and those kinds of things. So I think we're not going to approach it this fall like, you know, some can be remote, some can be face-to-face, and have it online available later. But I think we really want, in cases where it makes sense, to provide an opportunity for students to look at and watch the class later. I would say use attendance the way you've used it in the past as a motivator, and feel confident and supported in doing that. So.
Thank you. We do have a question from Chris Lee from our English department. It's good to see Chris. The question Chris has really is, you know, are there any specific ideas on how to incentivize vaccinations, and anything I can do as an instructor? I want to bring Rob Nielsen in on this, because Rob and his team were so good last year in dancing with all of this. And I would be interested to kind of open it up, right, to, do you have any good ideas? I think we ought to provide incentives. I don't know how effective it is. I mean, we talk to people about whether they're not getting vaccinated. In some cases, it doesn't matter. They've taken a position. And but any thoughts about incentivizing vaccinations to students in the audience here? Other than pizzas, I mean, pizzas seem to usually be effective. But Rob, what are you hearing among your colleagues, and are there some ideas we can start chewing on now?
Some colleges are looking at events. Once they get to a certain percentage of students vaccinated, they open up events to everybody. If they get 50%, they allow 50% activity at games or events. Once they get to 70%, then they open everything up. So they're kind of looking at it as a student body as a whole, that if the students get together and say, if we get 70% of our students vaccinated, we'll have everything face-to-face, everything will be good. So we can do some campus-wide incentives, as well as some individual things with, you know, there's a lot of things out there as far as swag and different things that we could do that way, as far as food services. But we're just kind of looking at, again, you know, it's kind of a new thing, this new variant. And if you look at what we were a year ago and where we end up in August, we kind of just have to really play it by ear and see what happens. If Utah continues to be a hot spot, then I think we have to really look at it more closely and really work with the students to make sure we're providing what they need and that they can stay face to face. Because I think our students learned last year the value of doing whatever was needed to stay face to face.
Seems like athletics has a great way of incentivizing these student athletes, in that what I've heard that if you're not vaccinated, then you're going to have to wear your mask in your helmet, or you know, so athletics is a little bit different than some of our other students, but we do have some more. I think that's something you've thought a lot about getting vaccines to our athletes. How's that coming, you think?
Very good. We'll encourage them all, just because we'll be flying, and a lot of things like that, they're going to be required for them to get on planes and different things. So from an athletic side, most everybody will probably be required to get vaccinations in order to participate, just because of the rules outside of the college. We'll continue to test. We've been testing all summer on an as-needed basis for anybody that's wanted it. And we continue to have tests available. So if you do want to get tested, we have those available, and encourage people, if they are sick, to come. We're still working on the idea of, do we still have places for people with COVID once they're diagnosed? Do we just send them home, or are we going to still provide housing for them? Because we thought we were going to be done by now. So we're having to switch a little bit and go back to more of a COVID related thing. So it's kind of like a year ago, we're playing it every day, changed a little bit. The CDC comes out with a new thing every 2 or 3 days that changes what we do. So just continue to be flexible, and we'll try and do everything we can to stay face to face like we did a year ago.
We're getting about to the 90-minute mark or so, and so we need to wind down, but I would be remiss not to mention how successful our athletic programs have been this year. We had 2 runner-up national champions in volleyball, in women's volleyball, and in football. We've had our men's and women's soccer team go back to nationals. It's the 2nd year for the women's, but the 1st year for the men's. And for the women's, we got to the semis, Rob?
Yeah. Yes.
And you know, that's a fairly young sport. Rob has taken on a very bold initiative to bring on men's and women's wrestling. And that we've done that with the commitment that we would not dedicate any institutional funds for this, but all be fundraising. And we've had an incredible response from the wrestling community to do that. We centered in Richfield as a way to kind of build student life down there. But really very proud of our student athletes and what they've done.
Could I just mention one thing, President? Our softball team, our volleyball team, our women's soccer, our men's basketball team all had cumulative GPAs to let them be All-American teams as a group. Our women's basketball team had the highest GPA in the country, and they were the #1 team. So not only they're performing on the fields and courts, but they're all above a 3.0 team-wise on almost every sport. So
really amazing. Football team had 18 All-Americans, incredible. I am going to ask Vance to help us with our music program. Our choir ended up getting invited to a very prestigious competition. Do you want to come up here and tell us about this, because this really is the kind of the national championship for our music students. And Dean Hoff gave me the good news a couple weeks ago, and if he were here, I'd ask him. But Vance, can you tell us why we should be really proud of this?
Well, an invitation to perform at ACDA is a
Which stands for what?
American Choir Directors Association.
Yeah.
And it's a national organization that represents choir directors both at the secondary school level, collegiate level, and the invitation to perform is really an honor for our institution at the national level like that. We're very proud of Dr. Huff and the great work that he does with our choirs here at Swim College.
And there was a question of whether there's a beer bottle behind Rob Nielsen, and well, we just want to make sure that people understand he's not going through AA. But why do you have a Corona beer bottle behind you? That's that's a little awkward.
Well, if you see one in your office as well, I believe.
That was too.
The coronavirus team was awarded these bottles to recognize the work which was done by our teams last year, and so hopefully we can get to a Corona Light next year.
And so I'm told. So I'm told that they were empty bottles. Yeah, right. So.
Rob, I hide those in my office. I don't let anybody see them.
Tell us a little more what we can expect really from our fine arts and performing arts students coming up. We've got some great things happening with our music program, our union. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of our union bands. They just are such a gem. But our dance students and our theater students really building up for some terrific performances this next year.
Yeah, we're really hopeful that we can continue to perform for live audiences. So Rob, I'm interested in the incentive model. There's a way that we can continue to have people come in person and watch. We can certainly live stream everything that we do, and we'll continue to do that this year. We kind of hope that would be behind us as well. But one of the things we learned is that by offering those live stream performance opportunities, we increased our audience size exponentially. We had over 4,000 people watch our Christmas Spectacular last year. So this will continue to be a place where our ensembles and our dance companies and our theater productions, we hope are still active, where students can continue to practice what they're actually here for and excited about. And we hope that we're able to do it for live audiences. We're excited for another year of making great art with great students.
Terrific. Well, every one of our departments, we could, and we should shine some light on them, but we're particularly proud of you guys and what you're doing and your students. Well, listen, unless there's anything else, let's wind down. Thanks again for everything. We will, August 25th is when we're kind of back at it, so in a month. Looking forward to that. And then listen, in the meantime, keep questions coming to us directly, email, phone calls, text. We're here for you. And looking forward to a very successful 21-22 academic year. Thanks very much.